Hi, I'm Robin, English teacher with Core Languages, and today I'm back on the beautiful campus of the College at Charleston. It's kind of empty because classes aren't in session at the moment, but it is also kind of loud because the cicadas are buzzing in the trees. Now let's go back. I just made two statements. I said it is kind of empty, and then I said, but it is also kind of loud. And then I added more information to my statements. I said, because classes aren't in session, and then I said, because the cicadas are buzzing in the trees. I added more information to my original statement by using what's called a subordinate clause. But a subordinate clause cannot stand by itself. I couldn't say, because classes aren't in session. This sentence needs to go with another sentence. It needs to go with the main clause. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make more complex sentences with a main clause, a subordinating conjunction, and a subordinate clause. So the next time you want to add some information to a statement, you can formulate a perfect English sentence.
Subordinating conjunctions. Subordinate clauses are dependent clauses, which means they cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. They need to go with a main clause. Subordinate clauses can be found at the beginning of a sentence, in which case the subordinate clause and the main clause are separated by a comma, but they can also be placed after the main clause, in which case no comma is needed. Here are some examples. The subordinate clause is marked in red. In order that we might fix the problem, it is necessary to work tonight. Notice that we began the sentence with the subordinate clause, so we needed to separate the subordinate clause and the main clause with a comma. She's going to sleep because she's very tired. This sentence began with the main clause, and no comma is needed between the main clause and the subordinate clause. We all know that teamwork is important. This sentence also begins with the main clause, so no comma is needed. A sentence consisting of a main clause and a subordinate clause can begin with either one of them. Remember that the main clause or the independent clause can stand alone, and the subordinate clause cannot. The subordinate clause begins with a subordinating conjunction, then the subject, the verb, and the predicate, followed by a comma. The main clause will have a subject, the verb, and the predicate. In this example, we began the sentence with a subordinate clause, and we put the main clause second and separated the two with a comma. But we can also begin with the main clause, subject, verb, and predicate, then the subordinating conjunction, another subject, another verb, and the predicate. In this example, we began with the main clause and then followed with the subordinate clause. We do not need to use a comma here. Here are some examples. Because you eat healthy, you look great. Because is the subordinating conjunction, and because you eat healthy is the subordinate clause. You will be happier once you get more sleep. Once is the subordinating conjunction, and once you get more sleep is the subordinate clause. There are many subordinating conjunctions, and it is important to remember that these can only be found at the beginning of a subordinate clause. There are one-word conjunctions, such as after, although, as, because, before, if, once, since, so, that, until, when, while. There are also multiple word conjunctions. For example, as long as soon as, except that, in order that, provided that, so as to. And there are also conjunctions with adverbs. For example, ever since, just as, just when, only if, right before, simply because. Look at the following two examples and choose one of the subordinating conjunctions below to complete the sentence. They're studying now after, until, so as to, or simply because, better prepare for the exam. The correct subordinating conjunction is so as to. They are studying now so as to better prepare for the exam. This sentence begins with the main clause, they are studying now, and the subordinating clause is so as to better prepare for the exam. And how about this example? He should wait after, until, so as to, or simply because he's fully rested before attempting the climb. Until. He should wait until he's fully rested before attempting the climb. This sentence also begins with the main clause, he should wait, and the subordinate clause is until he's fully rested before attempting the climb. And how about this example? As I have told you before, you should be more careful. Or so I have told you before, you should be more careful. As I have told you before, you should be more careful. Notice that this sentence begins with a subordinate clause, so it is separated from the main clause with a comma. And how about this example? We can go for a swim after there is enough time, or only if there is enough time. The correct subordinating conjunction is only if. We can go for a swim only if there is enough time. The main clause is we can go for a swim, and the subordinate clause is only if there is enough time. And how about this example? As soon as I get home, I have to make dinner. Or as long as I get home, I have to make dinner. As soon as I get home, I have to make dinner. Notice that this sentence begins with the subordinate clause, as soon as I get home, followed by a comma and then the main clause, I have to make dinner. And how about this example? That you are already going to the grocery store, can you pick up some bread? Or since you are already going to the grocery store, can you pick up some bread? The correct subordinating conjunction is since. Since you are already going to the grocery store, can you pick up some bread? This question begins with a subordinate clause, since you are already going to the grocery store, and it is followed by the main clause, can you pick up some bread?
Thank you for watching. I hope you now have a better understanding of how to use subordinate conjunctions. As always, if you have more questions, feel free to comment, or if you're interested in joining one of our courses with a live instructor, feel free to message us directly. I look forward to seeing you in our next class.